A former Portuguese colony that had been forcibly annexed by Indonesia in 1976, East Timor officially declared its independence on May 20, 2002. 4 months later, on September 27, the newly sovereign country became the 191st member of the United Nations, UN, and chose to be admitted under its Portuguese name, Timor-Leste. Independence had not come easily to the fledgling country, however. Following a 1999 UN-sponsored referendum, in which a majority of voters favored independence from Indonesia, the country was racked by waves of violence perpetrated by anti-independence militants, destroying much of the region's infrastructure. Order was eventually restored, however, and East Timor entered the new millennium with ambitious plans to rebuild and repair its torn state. Area 5,773 square miles, 14,954 square kilometers. Population, 2020 Est. 1,316,000. East Timor occupies the eastern half of the island of Timor in the Malay archipelago north of Australia. It also includes the nearby islands of Atoro, Cambing, and Yako as well as the enclave of Ambeno on the northwestern coast of Timor. The country is bounded by the Timor Sea to the southeast, the Wetter Strait to the north, the Ambai Strait to the northwest, and Western Timor, part of the Indonesian province of Nusa Tenggara Timur, to the southwest. Dili is the capital and largest city. Land and climate. The eastern part of Timor is rugged, with the mountains rising to 9,721 feet, 2,963 meters, at Mount Tatamailau, Tata Mailau, in the center of a high plateau. The area has a dry tropical climate and moderate rainfall. The climate is dominated by the monsoon season from November until approximately April, followed by a distinct dry season from May through October. Hilly areas are covered with sandalwood. Scrub and grass grow in the lowlands, together with coconut palms and eucalyptus trees. There are hot springs and numerous mountain streams. Wildlife includes the cuscus, a species of marsupial, monkeys, deer, civet cats, snakes, and crocodiles. People. Most of the people of East Timor are of Papuan, Malayan, and Polynesian origin and are predominantly Christian. About 40 different Papuan and Malayan languages or dialects are spoken, dominated by Tetum. Portuguese is spoken by a small fraction of the population. Tetum and Portuguese are the official languages. The status of healthcare in East Timor was grim in the early 21st century, having been badly affected by the 1999 anti-independence violence. With the help of international agencies, however, approximately 90 community-based health clinics were established by 2002, and plans were underway to rebuild the country's hospitals. However, the shortage of East Timorese physicians made the country dependent on outside humanitarian assistance. The 1999 violence also devastated East Timor's education system. The country had previously had a modest network of schools, though the quality of education was poor and literacy stood at less than 50%. As the country approached independence, repair of the educational system was prioritized. With the assistance of the World Bank, the transitional government in place by 2000 developed a program to revitalize the schools by rehabbing more than 2,000 classrooms with new furniture and learning materials. The University of East Timor, the country's only institution of higher education, reopened in 2001. Economy. Agriculture is the mainstay of the East Timor economy. The chief product is coffee, though coconuts, cotton, rice, wheat, tobacco, wool, potatoes, and corn, maize, as well as pearls and sandalwood, are also important. Among the most important manufactured products are soap, perfumes, processed food, chemicals, and machine goods. Crafts include pottery, wood and ivory carving, plating, core production, and basket making. East Timor also lays claim to extensive offshore petroleum and natural gas deposits in the Timor Sea, though these have not been adequately developed. Roads run parallel to the northeastern coast and link Maubara, Manatuto, Tutuala, and Dili. The road network includes roughly 265 miles, 428 kilometers, of paved highways. East Timor is served by 2 international airports, at Dili and at Baucau, the second largest city, and is connected to other points in Indonesia by cargo and passenger ship. The country has 2 daily newspapers, as well as several weekly publications. The transportation and communication systems were ravaged during the violence of 1999, but efforts at reconstruction are underway. Government. Following independence, East Timor adopted a liberal form of government as a multi-party democracy. A unicameral, or one-chambered, parliament is the sovereign body, with 88 deputies elected for 5-year terms. The president is head of state, elected by direct vote to a 5-year term, with a 2-term limit. The government is led by the prime minister, who is designated by the majority party in parliament and nominated by the president. The country is divided into 13 administrative districts. The judicial branch of the government is headed by a Supreme Court of Justice, with one justice appointed by the parliament and the remainder chosen by the Superior Council for the Judiciary. History. The area that is now East Timor has suffered repeated invasions and colonizations over its history. The Portuguese first settled on Timor in 1520, and the Spanish arrived in 1522. The Dutch took possession of the western portion of the island in 1613. 200 years later, the island came under British rule, which remained in force from 1812 to 1815. The Dutch and the Portuguese fought for supremacy over Timor. Portuguese sovereignty over the island's eastern half was settled by treaties in 1860 and 1893, although the latter became effective only in 1914. During World War II, Timor was occupied by Japanese. Following the war, East Timor Province, including the Ambeno enclave, remained in Portuguese possession. In November 1975, the Fretilin political party gained control of much of the territory and declared its independence as the Democratic Republic of East Timor. The area was subsequently invaded and occupied by Indonesian forces in early December, and in 1976 was declared by Indonesia to be an integral part of Indonesia as the province of Timor Timur, East Timor. Over the next 2 decades, tens of thousands of East Timorese died. Some observers claim as many as 200,000 perished, resisting the Indonesian occupation and annexation or as a result of famine and disease. In response to mounting international pressure, the Indonesian government authorized a referendum there in August 1999 to determine the future of East Timor. Almost 4/5 of the voters supported independence, and the Indonesian parliament rescinded Indonesia's annexation of the territory. East Timor was returned to its pre-annexation status of independence, but as a non-self-governing territory under UN supervision. However, the transfer of power was accompanied by violence perpetrated by anti-independence militants. Hundreds were killed, and thousands fled to the western half of the island. Refugees subsequently began returning home. In April 2002, Zanana Gusmao, leader of one of the former opposition groups, was elected East Timor's first president. That same month, the UN Security Council proposed a 2-year mission of support to assist with the orderly transfer of authority to the new government. You can subscribe to support our channel and turn on the notification bell to be notified of new videos.